Hello and welcome to Buzzbee, the channel where hidden industry stories finally get exposed and the truth behind the headlines comes to light in a way the mainstream rarely dares to show you. Today's story isn't just big, it's one of the most explosive, shocking, and career-shaking claims ever involving Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z. We're diving into secret tensions, crossed lines, silent pressures, and an alleged behind-the-scenes war that many fans believe changed Nicki's entire career trajectory from deep within the industry. Now buckle up, because Nicki Minaj is officially back on X, and she's not whispering, she's coming directly for Jay-Z. In a rapid-fire series of tweets, Nicki Minaj claimed that Jay-Z owes her somewhere between $100 million to $200 million. And according to her, this isn't a rumor or misunderstanding. It's something she's been hinting about for years. It all began with a confession no one expected, the kind of revelation that shakes the foundation of hip-hop power structures. When Nicki spoke about Jay-Z, she wasn't merely referencing a bad deal or studio politics. She was implying something far more personal. Nicki suggested that years ago, Jay tried to push a friendship into something deeper, and when she refused, that's when things changed for her. She went on X saying, "Y'all really don't understand who I am. Bring it. Let's play. You wanted attention? Let's do it." And then things escalated. She started tagging LAPD, insisting certain people needed to be held accountable. She called out Republic Records, warning them publicly, "You'll regret it." This wasn't random. This was controlled chaos. And for many fans, it raised the question, why is Nicki suddenly blowing everything wide open? What changed? According to Nicki, everything shifted after that alleged personal boundary with Jay-Z. She claims that slowly, quietly, and completely off camera, a silent battle began. Not in studios or social media threads, but in boardrooms, private calls, and industry spaces controlled by some of the most powerful people in entertainment. And yet, mainstream blogs and platforms refused to fully cover her posts. They cherry-picked her words, watered everything down, or ignored the story entirely. Fans pointed out that whenever Jay-Z's name is involved, the coverage mysteriously disappears. As one commentator put it, "If someone owed me $200 million, I'd be in court, not on X." And they admitted if she ever took that to court, it would be the biggest story in hip-hop, no question. But this feud hits differently. It's not about music. It's about influence, control, and what happens when someone challenges the people who sit at the very top. Then comes the timeline, and that's where things get even harder to dismiss. Back in 2021, Jay-Z sold Tidal for over $300 million. But Nicki says that all the way back in 2015, she was promised a 3% equity share in Tidal, real ownership. She pushed the platform harder than nearly any other artist. She promoted it relentlessly, doing interviews, campaigns, and rollouts. Yet when the payout came, she claims she didn't receive a single dollar. Meanwhile, insiders later confirmed that while other artists walked away with millions, Nicki wasn't part of that list. At first glance, it seemed like just another celebrity complaint, until suddenly everything in Nicki's life started spiraling at once. In March 2024, Nicki Minaj and her husband Kenneth Petty were hit with a $500,000 default judgment after a German security guard accused Petty of assault backstage. Soon after, that same man's legal team filed to seize Nicki's $20 million hit at Mills mansion. Fans were shocked when, by September, the LA Sheriff's Office confirmed the worst. Her home was officially under levy. But here's the part that made fans pause. All this chaos exploded right after Nicki publicly began calling out Jay-Z over the Tidal equity issue. Suddenly, she was drowning in lawsuits, negative headlines, and coordinated smear pieces, many allegedly linked to media outlets with ties to Roc Nation. Fans began asking, was this a coincidence? Or a quiet message from J Circle about who really controls the industry? Nicki seemed to think it was the latter. On October 15th, 2025, she dropped the bombshell announcement that stunned her entire fan base. Her upcoming album was canceled, and she tagged Jay-Z directly with the message, "Hope you're happy now." Instantly, the internet caught fire. The story spread everywhere, except, again, the big blogs, the major outlets, and the mainstream platforms that always seem to fall silent whenever the spotlight turns toward Jay-Z. And that, right there, is why today's story matters. Hours later, Nicki's entire Instagram vanished into thin air. No warning, no explanation, just gone. Fans were left confused, worried, and suspicious. Then, days later, it suddenly reappeared, but the comeback was nothing anyone expected. The first post was a bizarre AI-generated image of Jay-Z wearing a bright pink wig paired with a single caption, "I am your karma." Immediately, the internet split into two extremes. Some said Nicki was spiraling under pressure, unraveling before the public eye. Others insisted she was fighting back with precision, deliberately trolling the same system she believed was trying to silence her. But people who truly knew Nicki's personality, her history of speaking up when she's pushed too far, felt something different. There was a tone to that post, a sharpness behind the edges. It didn't feel like a joke or an outburst. It felt like a warning shot. Like Nicki Minaj would rather burn the whole system to the ground than let it break her again. And almost instantly, the industry struck back. Charlamagne the God, one of Jay-Z's loudest defenders for over a decade, went on The Breakfast Club and crowned Nicki Donkey of the Day. His words weren't just harsh, they were scathing. "Your energy is just stank and nasty," he said, dismissing her post as a meltdown driven by ego and delusion. But the segment didn't feel like a spontaneous radio rant. The timing was suspiciously clean. It aired just 48 hours after Nicki publicly accused Jay-Z's camp of blocking her interview slots across major radio stations. Later, insiders whispered that the entire Donkey of the Day takedown wasn't just allowed, it was approved by top iHeartRadio executives. The same executives who, coincidentally, still have long-standing relationships with Roc Nation's upper ranks. So instead of looking like Charlamagne clapped back, it looked like a planned counterstrike, a coordinated hit piece arranged to discredit her before the story could gain traction. And then came the real chaos. Nicki Minaj was hit with not one, not two, but 4 swatting attacks, each one worse than the last. Armed officers storming into her home, guns drawn in the middle of the night with her toddler inside. LAPD confirmed the incidents, but conveniently claimed they had no suspects, no leads, no answers. Nicki didn't buy that for even a second. She went public, accusing the attacks of being strategic intimidation, not random pranks. She tagged Republic Records, called out Jay-Z's associates by name, and said she had proof these weren't coincidences, they were orchestrated moves meant to shake her to the core. And then something eerie happened. After she exposed the swatting publicly, the raid stopped completely. No suspects were arrested, no explanations given, just silence. The message was clear, and it didn't need words. Someone wanted Nicki Minaj to know that even inside her own home, with her child beside her, she could be reached, she could be frightened, she could be controlled. When you line everything up, none of it reads like random misfortune. It reads like structure, strategy, calculation. First came the financial hits. The missing title payout, the lawsuits popping up out of nowhere, the sudden debt stories slashed across every major headline. Then came the public humiliation machine. Charlamagne's takedown, Stephen A. Smith calling her ungrateful, media outlets repeating the same scripted lines in the exact same tone. After that came the psychological warfare. Disappearing social accounts, AI mockery, police raids at 3 a.m. Any one incident could be brushed off as bad luck. all of them together, it's a pattern so sharp it could cut glass. A former label executive told us privately, when a woman in this industry refuses the wrong man, they don't just cancel her, they erase her. And the unified front from the industry made things darker. Just hours after Nicki's outburst, Gucci Mane's wife Keisha Kayor appeared on The Breakfast Club praising Gucci's mental health journey. Nicki fired back instantly, accusing Keisha of being sent there to keep Gucci sedated and controlled. Then she spun right back to Charlemagne, calling him Jay-Z's close ally, using the nation's largest radio network for, in her words, disgusting psyops against innocent families. Suddenly, the coincidences didn't feel like coincidences at all. It looked like a network. Fully mobilized. Same platform, same voices, same timing. And through all of it, Jay-Z remained silent. Not a single comment, not one statement from Roc Nation. His silence felt heavy, like a shadow hovering over the entire conversation. When Nicki accused him of blocking Lil Wayne from the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show, saying Jay-Z's ego was punishing greatness, the internet tore her apart. They said she was inserting herself where she don't belong. But behind that anger was something else. Loyalty. Wayne discovered her, Wayne put her on, and seeing him slide blind in his own city hit her like a betrayal. In blood daylight. To Nicki, it wasn't a coincidence. It looked like another move in the same quiet war she'd been warning everyone about. By late October, everything hit a breaking point. Her mansion was still at risk for forced sale. Legal filings were stacking up by the week. She was days away from relaunching her billionaire Barbie brand. And right on cue, every major outlet suddenly began recycling old stories about her husband's probation, his past cases, his old charges. No new evidence, no new developments, just refreshed headlines with new timestamps. Media experts later revealed that this was called a refresh cycle. A subtle but powerful tactic used to bury the present under the past. And leading that refresh cycle were, once again, the same outlets tied to Roc Nation's media pipeline. If Nicki's claims are true, if rejecting Jay-Z years ago truly triggered a long-running personal vendetta, then the next question becomes unavoidable. What else is buried beneath hip-hop's most powerful empire? Nicki has repeatedly hinted that lawyers, media insiders, executives, and even elements of law enforcement may have been pulled into a system designed to shield one man's image at any cost. There's still no official proof, no public documents tying the threads together, but the timing, the patterns, and the synchronized silence speak louder than any denial possibly could. Because if Jay-Z really has the reach to pull legal strings, silence radio hosts, manipulate networks, and apply police pressure just to crush someone who simply said no, then this isn't just an industry feud, it's a blueprint for control. But even beneath those questions lies one far more dangerous.
What Nicki exposed next wasn't just about revenge or personal grudge. It hinted at a machine so powerful, so deeply connected, that even Beyoncé, the most untouchable woman in music, might be caught in its gears. That $500,000 judgment against Nicki wasn't merely a courtroom loss, it hit like a financial guillotine, slicing straight through her independence and showing the world just how cold the industry can become when someone challenges a protected circle. And just when Nicki tried to rebuild her brand, another figure came storming back into the picture, Thomas Boudin Miller, resurfacing out of nowhere with fresh demands tied to that 2019 overseas incident. But what truly raised eyebrows wasn't his name, it was the speed. The moment Nicki began publicly naming Jay-Z, everything around her accelerated. Within months, her $20 million Hidden Hills mansion wasn't just mentioned in legal filings, it was officially hit with a levy. To casual fans, it looked like typical celebrity legal drama. But to anyone watching closely, it felt like pressure, like a silent warning meant to remind her exactly who she was challenging. That seizure notice wasn't just paperwork. It was a message, a reminder of who holds power and who ultimately pays for speaking out. And the pattern, once again, pointed straight back to Tidal. Jay-Z sold Tidal in 2021 for roughly $302 million. But Nicki's been saying for years that her promised equity, rumored to be worth between $100 and $200 million, simply vanished. No payout, no explanation, just radio silence behind closed doors. On paper, every founding artist was supposed to receive equity and compensation, but insiders say Nicki's name quietly disappeared from the final deal. Was that a business decision or punishment for turning Jay-Z down years earlier? The silence surrounding it has been deafening. Every time Nicki pushed for answers, Roc Nation and Block Inc. stayed locked up tight. And the moment she brought the issue back into the spotlight this fall, her entire legal world exploded again. Lawsuits, raids, debts, news stories. To anyone paying attention, it didn't look random. It looked like a double hit, financial pressure disguised as coincidence, aimed at reminding her what happens when you aim at the wrong giant. She had a shot at me, was it? She asked. And honestly, it's hard not to wonder. Behind a Roc Nation's sleek walls and polished branding, one name keeps surfacing again and again. Desiree Perez, the CEO many insiders quietly called the strategist of the entire empire. Perez is the same executive who once received a presidential pardon. A woman with decades of connections, leverage, and influence. Sources tied to label meetings claim Perez was the one calling major platforms, advising them to minimize risk with Nicki, code for shutting her out from features, brand deals, interviews, and public appearances. Even Republic Records, Nicki's own label, reportedly became divided, half defending her, half folding under the weight of Roc Nation's pressure. Insiders say as soon as Nicki publicly questioned the missing Tidal money, internal audits suddenly appeared. And around that same time, this terrifying swatting incident started. 4 separate raids, 4 armed responses, her toddler inside every time. Maybe it's coincidence. Or maybe it's not. Because the pattern is impossible to ignore. And the pressure didn't stop at lawsuits or media orchestrations. Suddenly, private texts between Nicki's team and industry contacts leaked to blogs known for their Roc Nation exclusives. Some messages painted her as unstable. Others implied she owed massive advances. None of it was verified, but all of it was damaging. A former road manager put it bluntly. It's never about truth. It's about wearing you down. And that's exactly how it looked. Every headline, every blast, every breaking story felt engineered to drain her so deeply she wouldn't have the strength to fight back. But through all the chaos, one name remained untouched. One name insulated, pristine, protected. Beyoncé. When Nicki dropped that cryptic line, Beyoncé knew, the internet detonated. If Jay-Z truly crossed a line with Nicki years ago, fans asked the forbidden question. What did Beyoncé know, and when did she know it? Her silence since then has been chilling. Publicly, she appears flawless, calm, unbothered. But insiders say her team has been scrambling behind the scenes, calling radio hosts, producers, stylists, and anyone with a public platform, making it clear the topic is off limits. One insider said it plainly. They can't let this look like betrayal inside the royal family of music. Because if even a fraction of what Nicki is saying holds truth, Beyoncé's silence isn't elegance. It's strategy, and the stakes are far bigger than petty industry drama. For nearly 20 years, Jay-Z and Beyoncé have been the unbeatable power couple, the ones who turned fame into an unshakable empire. But if Nicki's accusations really start cracking that polished image, it doesn't just threaten Jay-Z, it threatens the entire myth they've built. Industry whispers see NDAs have already been circulated, locking Roc Nation employees into silence about any disputes involving female artists. Lawyers are revisiting old agreements, tightening loyalty clauses and confidentiality lines. Nobody wants to be the next name dragged into the storm. And honestly, it feels less like PR cleanup and more like a full-scale containment operation. Nicki's treating social media like her last shield after posting that eerie AI image of Jay-Z in a pink wig with the caption, "I am your karma." She didn't slow down. She launched on a full-on digital blitz, calling out the industry gatekeepers who blocked her interviews, accusing certain executives of blackballing her, daring her label to speak up, and hinting she's holding documents that could blow the situation wide open. She wrote, "The same business managers who robbed me are still working for them." Whether those claims ever end up in a courtroom is still unknown, but one thing's obvious now. Nicki isn't just fighting a personal battle anymore. She's become a symbol. The artist who refused to stay quiet in the room told her to whisper. And behind the curtains, fear is spreading. Smaller artists are murmuring about last-minute show cancellations. Podcasters who spoke positively about Nicki say advertisers suddenly pulled out, sending polite reminders about which names they prefer not to be associated with. Meanwhile, sources say Beyoncé's team has started tracking coverage, a literal list of media outlets to monitor, watching what stories drop and where. That level of coordination doesn't happen just for gossip. It happens when an empire feels the floor begin to tremble. And that's the part that chills people to the bone. Not the drama itself, but the psychology behind it. Every outburst, every vanishing Instagram post, every mysterious photo gets labeled as celebrity chaos. But when you zoom in, a disturbing pattern appears. Each time Nicki speaks up, a wave of headlines crashes down. Then, like clockwork, another lawsuit hits, another show gets canceled, another smear story drop. It's almost as if the industry is sitting back waiting for her to slip, just so they can say, "See, we told you she's unstable." But what if she's not unraveling at all? What if this is what years of silent pressure, manipulation, and behind-the-scenes power plays actually look like when they finally surface? Inside the business, the whispers are getting louder. People are saying Nicki's so-called meltdowns are being used as ammunition. Executives who once begged for her time now hide behind fine print. Insurance companies tag her as a liability. Publicists who used to ride for her are ghosting the moment things heat up. This madness narrative has become the perfect weapon, a way to dismiss her, discredit her, and drown her claims under labels like emotional, erratic, and difficult. It's the oldest play in the book. Take a powerful woman's exhaustion and twist it into proof that she is the problem. And the cruelest part, the more she defends herself, the easier it becomes for the machine to paint her as the villain. If even a fraction of what she's saying is true, this isn't a meltdown. This is exposure, not of her, but of an entertainment system built on quiet fear and loud punishment. The memes, the headlines, the sudden concern pundits. That's not commentary. That's soft censorship, a silencing tactic disguised as entertainment. Because if Nicki Minaj, one of the most successful women in hip-hop, can be pushed this far to the edge, imagine what happens to the artists who don't have her platform, her money, or her voice. Nicki's not just battling for her house, her money, or her reputation. She's fighting for the right to stand outside a machine built to control her. If even part of what she's saying is real, we might be watching one of the most calculated acts of retaliation the music industry has ever pulled off. A system engineered to punish disobedience, erase the evidence afterward, and rewrite the narrative after. And that leads to the question nobody wants to touch. If this can happen to Nicki Minaj, with her millions, her influence, her global fan base, what chance does anyone else have? How many other artists have been quietly pushed aside, silenced, or broken long before we even learn their names?